Welcome. The French Revolution was a watershed event in modern European history that began in 1789 and ended in the late 1790s with the ascent of Napoleon Bonaparte. This was the time when the French citizens demolished and then redesigned their country's political and social landscape, uprooted centuries-old institutions such as absolute monarchy and the feudal system. But why? Because there was widespread dissatisfaction with the French monarchy and the poor economic policies of King Louis XVI, who met his death by guillotine, as did his wife Marie Antoinette. Although the French Revolution failed to achieve all of its goals and at times degenerated into a chaotic bloodbath, it played a critical role in shaping the contemporary world, the one in which we are living now. Let us have a look at the French Revolution. See, the revolution began on 14th of July. The 18th century was divided into three estates. First estate, clergy. These were the group of persons involved in church matters. Religious priests, you may call them religious priests. Second estate was the nobility. These were the persons who have a high rank in state administration. You may call them government officials. And then the third estate comprises of businessmen, merchants, court officials, lawyers, peasants and artisans, landless laborers, servants. These were the commoners. Now, the problem was that the first two classes were exempted from paying taxes. They enjoyed privileges by birth. Nobility classes also enjoyed feudal privileges, whereas the members of the third estate had to pay all the tax. Discrimination is wrong. Where is the equality? Now, a direct tax called tile and also several other indirect taxes were used to be charged on the articles of everyday consumption like salt or tobacco. A tax called tithe was also used to be collected by the church from the peasants. Look at this fact. Clergy and nobility, the first two estates, were 10% of the population but possessed 60% of the land, whereas the third estate was 90% of the population. This increased the demand for the food grains. However, production could not keep pace with the demand, which ultimately increased the prices of the food grains. Most workers used to work as laborers and they didn't see any increase in their wages. Salary is stagnant while the cost of living has gone flying. Adding to that, the situation used to become more critical whenever drought or hail would reduce the harvest. This led to the scarcity of food grains. The subsistence crisis started occurring frequently during the build-up for the revolution. Now comes the political causes. Louis XVI, the King of France, came into power in 1774, and what he inherited was an empty treasury. Long years of wars had drained the financial resources of France. Under Louis XVI, France helped the 13 American colonies to gain their independence from the British. But by doing so, France got pushed into huge debts. Moreover, to meet its regular expenses such as the cost of maintaining an army, the court, running government, offices, universities, they increased the taxes. The soldiers who fought in the American Revolution had already got a taste of the power of masses, the power of revolution. They wished to replicate it in France. So a revolution was mandatory at that time. Growing middle classes. The 18th century witnessed the emergence of a social group termed the middle class, who earned their wealth through trade, manufacturing of goods, and other such professions and services. This class had access to education. They believed separation of power, So, the revolution outbreaks. Louis XVI called an assembly of the Estates General to pass his proposal to increase taxes on 5th of May 1789. This was kind of an assembly. It used to remain dormant. In this, first and second and the third estate, everyone had got just one vote, respectively. But the number of people in each estate was not equal. So, the members of the third estate demanded individual voting right because they had got the number, where each member would have one vote. After the rejection of this proposal by the king, members of the third estate walked out of the assembly in protest. On 20th of June, the representative of the third estate assembled Now, France becomes a constitutional monarchy. The National Assembly completed the draft of the constitution in 1791, intending to limit the power of the monarch. The powers were now separated and assigned to different institutions: the legislature, executive, and judiciary, which made France a constitutional monarchy, not a republic until now. The Constitution of 1791 gave the power of making laws in the hands of the National Assembly, which was indirectly elected. The limited franchise model, Now, the French Constitution began with the declaration of the rights of men and citizens. Rights such as the right to life, freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, equality before the law were given to each human being by birth and Jacobians were very aggressive with their approach. They hanged Louis XVI, the King of France, to death. Queen Marie Antoinette met with the same fate shortly after. This began the Reign of Terror, a period from 1793 to 1794. Robespierre followed a policy of severe control and punishment. All his enemies, ex-nobles, clergy, members of other political parties, even members of his own party who did not agree with the methods were arrested, imprisoned and guillotined. Guillotine means beheading the head. Robespierre pursued his policies so harshly that even his own supporters began to demand moderation. And finally, he was convicted by the court in July 1794, arrested and guillotined. Then came the Directory rule of France. It provided for 2 elected legislative councils, which then appointed a directory, an executive made up of 5 members. These were the directors. The directors often clashed with the legislative councils, who then sought to dismiss them. The political instability of the directory paved the way for the rise of a military dictator named Napoleon Bonaparte. Now, the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte. Look, after the end of the Reign of Terror, the directory created political instability. In 1804, Napoleon Bonaparte crowned himself Emperor of France. He conquered many neighboring countries and placed members of his families on the crown. Look at the irony. How, after all this revolution and all, one monarch is being replaced by sort of another. So, Napoleon saw his role as a modernizer of Europe. He introduced many laws such as the protection of private property and a uniform system of weights and measures provided by the decimal system. Initially, many people welcomed Napoleon as a liberator who would bring freedom for their people. But soon, the Napoleonic army come to be viewed everywhere as an invading force. He finally tried to invade Russia, that too in winters. Nobody does that. As a result, he was finally defeated at Waterloo in 1815. So, what is the legacy of the French Revolution? Liberty, equality and fraternity. The idea of a republic form of government. Democratic rights. These ideas got spread from France to the rest of Europe. Indian Constitution has also cherished and incorporated many ideas of this French Revolution. Thank you for watching this video. Take care.